Hey everyone, and welcome to your Thursday Footy Fix. It is Footy Talks. Luke, Stephen, and KJ with you. Michael Bradley with us on Footy Talks. Thanks, Michael, for joining us. Great to see you.
Great to see you guys. How are you all doing?
Good.
We're doing okay.
Thank you.
Lots of TFC fans on today. They've been sending in some questions as well, so appreciate you taking the time, especially as it seems to be ramping up now. Just take us through what it's been like for you in terms of the last few months. Difficult for everyone in different situations, although you were still allowed to have some contact in terms of your recovery as well. So maybe a little bit more of a sense of normalcy, not just being stuck at home all the time. But how did that all go, and what's it been like for you and for your family?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a crazy stretch. There's no two ways about it. As you said, in some ways for me, because I was, I was in the rehab mindset. I was in a totally different place mentally than everybody else. I'd had my surgery in the middle to end of January, and I was just trying to, now get myself back and do all the little things that I needed every single day to get myself one step closer. And then obviously, the world gets turned upside down. And so for so many people, daily routines, their jobs, for my teammates, for everybody at the club, everything changes at the drop of a hat. For me, obviously it was about, making sure that our family was healthy and safe, and finding the right ways to settle into new routines. But for me, I was lucky in that my rehab didn't skip a beat. The club did an incredible job making sure that I missed like 1 or 2 days right when everything initially shut down, just to let they gave the training ground a really deep clean, and made sure that everything, there wasn't a stone left unturned. But after that, I was in there every day, with the physio who was working with me, and we were at it. So it's been nice to now see more and more people get back on the inside of the building over the last few weeks. I joked with people. It was like, January, everybody was gone for preseason. And then, obviously everything with the pandemic, it's the number of days and number of hours I've spent at that facility, just the physio and myself with nobody else inside. It's been too much. So the fact that there's some life and energy back in the building, it's nice.
Michael, there's life and energy back on the field as well. I know your coach has said that you've done some 11 on 11. Maybe you can just talk the fans through some of that. And I'm not sure if you've had it yet, but Greg was talking about arranging a morning game at some point for Orlando. How's the plans going with 11 on 11, and how's it felt for you after this few months to get back on the field?
Yeah, it's been great. We've had a really good, just about 10 days now of full team training. Obviously, we worked through the different phases of return to play, and it's been, if I remember correctly, 10, 12 days now of team training. And it's been really good. You see how excited guys are. You see how, you see the energy, the enthusiasm. Obviously the weather's been nice. Everybody knows that the real games are just around the corner. And so it's been great. Last week, we played probably 55 minutes of 11v11 at the training ground, which was a good first run for everybody. Tomorrow we'll push things a little bit more. It sounds like 70, 75, and then we'll play one more time next week before we head down to Orlando, and my guess is that we'll push that closer to 90. So it's been really good. Obviously, everybody's had to, everybody had to push themselves and work hard for themselves during the quarantine. But guys worked hard, and you see that now the work pays off, because we've been able to get right back into it in a good way. And the way that we've been able to push training has been really good.
And how are you feeling yourself, Michael, physically and obviously competitively when you get back into the 11-11s? Are you feeling like your sharpness is coming back and you're ready to get right into this tournament in Orlando?
Yeah, physically I feel really good. I've been, the last, really since by the time individual training started back and then small groups and then into team training. I mean, I've been involved in everything, haven't missed a day. And so I feel good. I feel strong. I feel sharp. My ankle feels good, which is a great feeling. Whenever you have surgery on an injury like that, you as they're wheeling you into the operating room, you're literally thinking to yourself, hopefully this is the last time I feel pain like this. And obviously, there's the post-op pains and different things to deal with. But, there's no better feeling than when you start to get back on the field and start to now really push it, and you feel yourself and you feel good. And so, yeah, everything's been good. And now I just, like everybody, I need games. I need real games. I need minutes. And so I'm excited.
And do you like the idea, Michael, of the MLS's back tournament? We were talking earlier about how energized we are about the fact that this is going to be a tournament where every game matters, where, like a World Cup, everybody's paying attention to, we often talk about how do you get the TFC fan interested in a San Jose Portland game? And something, for MLS to grow, that needs to happen across the league. And a tournament like this can really help in building the league as a whole, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, that would be the hope. I'm a traditionalist. I would have preferred to just get back into, league games in empty stadiums in market and just start, getting back to it like they have in Europe. But obviously the circumstances are different here. There's still a bunch of markets that probably aren't ready for that. And the league felt like this was the quickest way to get everybody back and back playing real games. And so at this point, it is what it is. Anybody who's complaining about, the format or the structure, this group has 6 teams, it's just, it is what it is. And the competitor, and everyone now is going to start to come out, and if there's games to play and points to be won and a trophy to try to win, then that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, hopefully you're still saying that when you're waking up at 5 a.m. for that 9 a.m. game and having a
pre-match.
Exactly.
Pre-match at 5:30.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be a good one. Michael, maybe just talk us through how the last few months have been from an emotional side for you. I know we're all looking forward now. When you get on that field and everything goes, it'll be 8 months or so since you played a competitive game. You've had a wonderful career. I know you've been very blessed with most of the time with health and injuries, but that's an incredibly long time for you in terms of that. What is it that maybe, and I know you've got a wonderful family behind you and life is great, but what is it maybe that you've missed the most about that gap, that's something that you haven't really had to do since you've been a professional player?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that, as you said, it'll be 7-8 months by the time you step back on the field for a game. In some ways, it feels like 5 years, and in other ways, it feels like a week. And that speaks to how crazy of a period it's been, not just for me, but for everybody all across the world. And so, I'm. As I said, I feel good. I feel, re-energized. I can't wait. I can't wait to just again get back on the field and be able to play and compete and enjoy that part of it because ultimately there's nothing better, and obviously. Certainly the structure of this tournament, as you guys have said, the kickoff times, all the different variables will make the whole thing a little bit unique. It's also interesting in that, obviously I'm coming off a longer period without any games, but by and large, so is everybody else.
Yeah.
And so it's it's been a crazy stretch, and so it's I think it's exciting for everybody now in any ways where you can start to get back to a little bit of normal. I think we all love that part.
Michael, we all know the discipline and the commitment that you put into being, as professional as you can be and as prepared and as fit as possible. But as this spell off gave you a little bit of time to, I don't know if the word's reflect or to look forward, think about life after playing football, or is it just the appreciation of what you feel when you're out there on the park, that you just want more of that and you just want to do everything possible to make that last as long as possible? I'd love to know what your mindset's been at times in these last few months.
Yeah, great question. And I think it goes both ways. On one hand, it has, when you go through a period where you can't do the things that you love most, in terms of, going into training every day, stepping out onto the field, games on the weekend, you realize how much you love it. You realize how hard it hits you, how much you miss it. And so it in a lot of ways, it almost reaffirms everything that you've always known, which is, again, just how much you love the game, how much you love to train, how much you love to play, the competitive part. And so, there's no doubt that I love to play, and I'm going to continue to do everything I can to, be able to play and compete at a high level for as long as I can. But at the same time, I'm human, and you have to start to think about things down the line. You have to start to, you have to have a little bit of a plan, and so for me, in the short term, in the medium term, I love to play too much to be making any real plans for after. And I'm sure you played with them as well. You play with certain guys, and they get to the end of their career, and it's kind of like they've got one foot in and one foot out. They're still playing, but they're trying to set themselves up for the next thing. And look, there are ways that you can do that, and ways where it can still, positive can come out of that. But, I've also seen it the other way, where, it's like you're not really here and you're not really there. And so, look, I certainly think I'm going to want to get into the coaching, but I also understand that when you start to coach, you better be ready to work, and you better be ready to start from zero, and understand that your career as a player is now done, and anything you did as a player doesn't count for anything. And you have to be ready to work your way up the totem pole again. And when that day comes, I'll be ready to do that, because again, I know that you've got to earn everything. But like I said, for right now, that's still a little ways off for me.
Lots of comments from TFC fans on the Facebook chat and on Zoom as well. Day one, as Rob and Bob say, looking forward to seeing the captain back on the field. Mike Newell says, more of a statement than a question for Michael. Thank you for your words regarding Black Lives Matter. It means a lot to TFC supporters who are people of colour. One of the things Greg Vanney said to us last week when he was on the show, we were talking about how we had Kevin Kilban on, who played at a World Cup with Ireland. You've played at a World Cup as well, Michael. And we were talking about how, obviously, when you're away with a group of players, you have to like each other. Usually to be successful, you have to get on with each other. We've seen numerous different teams fall apart in those situations because they just have problems gelling as a team off the field as well. Greg said that especially in recent weeks, and he feels that from a really good base where you guys have got a great core anyway and a great group and attitude on and off the pitch. He said in recent weeks that he feels, given the circumstances and the conversations that you guys have been having as a team, as a group of players about what's going on around the world, that's become even more a tight-knit community, and that you guys as players have maybe gone places with each other that you hadn't even in the past. Is that a fair reflection of what's happened between you as obviously as the captain of this group of players, that you're even more tight-knit now than you were before this pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think when you're a part of a club, or you're a part of a team, and now you've been forced to go through some of the things that we all have over the last 5 or 6 months. You know, uh, from initially, dealing with a pandemic, so much uncertainty, then starting to settle into routines where, your guys are on Zoom every morning at 10 o'clock just to do a bike workout, or a yoga session together. Moving into the last few weeks, with everything that has gone on in the United States, and in Toronto as well, with protests, and with the Black Lives Matter. When you're with a group of people, and you now have to go through difficult moments, and you are forced to have real conversations with substance, conversations where people share their heart, and share their soul, and are now given real, honest opinion on things. That part brings a group together, and you learn more about guys. You come to appreciate and respect guys in an even bigger way. There's more of an appreciation for who guys are, not just as players or teammates, but who they really are, where they come from, what their family background is, some of the things that they've had to struggle with to get to where they are. And so, I think, yeah, I would agree with every part of what Greg says. I think we've always had a great group here. We've had some incredible experiences, on the field, but then there's some moments and experiences that go with all of the on-field stuff that a lot of people don't even know about. Time spent together off the field. Preseason in Mexico City, nights playing, poker, and in the middle of in a hotel in the middle of nowhere. I mean, again, just experiences that have really brought the group together. And I think the last few weeks and the last few months has only done that even more. I'll give one more example. The way that our group was able to stick together and really engage one another with all of the CBA stuff. To see how engaged everybody was, to see how how guys were going out of their way to make sure that we got certain messages translated in Spanish, translated in French. I mean, that part was special. And so, we talk about it all the time. I'm sure some of you guys get tired of hearing about it, but we really feel good about the group that we have, and it continues to get better all the time.
It certainly shows on and off the field, Michael, and you deserve a ton of credit for that. You've not really mentioned yourself, but the leadership group at that club and the culture that you've helped create, you certainly deserve an incredible amount of credit for that. And I wanted to say that you mentioned the words there, appreciation and respect. My appreciation and respect for you continues to go up and up and up, personally as well as professionally. I want to ask you a little bit about, I don't want to get into it today, but maybe just a little bit of an outlook into when I ask you questions in a press setting about social unrest and the political processes that are happening in the United States right now. You've never shied away from answering those questions, even though you're perfectly fine to do that. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of insight as a footballer, how that is for you, why you feel the need to talk about that and find those words, particularly that aren't easy to find. We're all in the industry where our words are held, sometimes are held against us. And, we have to find the right words, as I am trying to do right now. It's not always easy. But my point being is just, it's not an easy thing for an athlete to do, to talk about anything. And you're an absolute elite at it, if I'm quite honest.
I appreciate that. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. You know, and I'll start by saying, in many ways, I don't think that my opinion or what I say counts for anything more than, you know, my neighbor walking down the street. You know, I give my opinion. I have strong opinions. I try to read and to watch and to listen. I try to educate myself on football, but also on things that are going around in the world. Because I think the more knowledge that you can have, the more perspective that you can have. I think your ability to have real conversations with different people is that much greater. And so, you know, look, I'm not huge on social media. It's not always like I'm going out of my way to try to you know, force my opinion or you know, get my words or voice out there all the time. But I do think it is important that when you're asked, that you are not afraid to stand up for what you believe in and sit and give your opinion and you know, to speak in a strong, proud way, to represent who you are, to in certain moments represent you know, a group of people that stand behind you, whether it's your family, whether it's your team or the club. I think that part is really important. And so, you know, I when you look at everything that has gone on in the world over the last 5 or 6 months, I think we need more real conversation. We need more, you know, more people who are strong and educated and who are able to look at things through different lenses and who are able to find perspective, you know, different than their own. We need, you know, stronger leaders in every way, at every level. If we want to change some of the things that have frustrated all of our lives over this last period.
Thanks.
Michael, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. We're almost out of time, but before we do, one of the reasons that we enjoy talking to players each week on the show is to get a little bit more background about them and about some TFC games that have gone on in the past. The TFC game of the week this week is all the way on. It'll be on TorontoFC.ca tomorrow night, all the way back to 2014, which it was Greg Vanney's first win. He's up to 100 wins now, but this was a game against Chivas USA. I think it was a 3-0 win. Did you play as well, Stevie?
Yeah.
You were there that day?
There was a fight in the game, wasn't there? Wasn't that a fight in the game?
I know that Jackson got sent off and Nigel Rio-Coca got sent off.
That's the one. Yeah, they were fighting in the game. I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
I always forget things for games. I played in the game where a guy got sent off, didn't even know till the end of the game. At Leeds, I didn't even know, didn't even realise. I'm trying not to stop conceding goals.
That's brilliant.
But just to go back to that moment, it was Greg Vanney's first win. He'd come in, it was the end of August, Ryan Nelson left, Greg Vanney came in. I think it was back-to-back games against Philadelphia. I remember the first one in Philly, then you'd come in just before that, Michael, earlier on that year, and it was all at that point trying to change the culture of TFC to a point now where 6 years later it's unrecognizable for us from the outside. It presumably must feel like that to you as well, from what you set out to accomplish when you first joined this club to what it is now. You've turned it 360, and you've played a huge role in that, in terms of building that culture, building that group of players who now have that experience of knowing how to win games as well.
Yeah, look, it's the thing that I'm most proud of. You know, and there are and there have been so many good people who have been a part of it. You know, when I came, I came understanding and realizing how incredible the potential of the club was in terms of, a club that had an incredible fan base, real relevance in a big city, in a big sports city, relevance with the people, but also relevance in the media, a brand new training ground, a stadium, with perfect location. I mean, it had everything. And, it just, we needed to find a way to, connect a few dots. Obviously when you're trying to when you're trying to build something real and trying to build something that can stand up over the course of time, you're never going to get it perfect right away. There are going to be, you have to live some of those difficult moments early on to figure out who's going to be here, who's going to move on. This is just, in sports, this is how things go, and quite honestly, I don't have a much experience in terms of a company or business, but I would imagine it's the exact same there, finding people who are, who have the right character, who have the right mentality, who have the right, skills and right quality, and finding a way to bring that all together. That's what it's all about, and that takes time. But the potential for me always was just incredible. And, when you, over this last 5 or 6 months, when you watching some of these different games back, on TSN, whether it's playoff games from any of these years, playoff games, Champions League games, derbies against Montreal. I mean, we've had so many incredible special nights at BMO where, I get my car afterwards and you're as I'm driving home on the Gardner, and you look over and you see, the empty stadium with the lights still on, it's like, man, what a night again. And so, I hope that along the way there have been a few people who walk out of that stadium feeling the same way, because that ultimately is why we all do what we do.
Last one from
go KJ.
Sorry, last one from me, Michael. Again, thanks so much for your time. You've been very gracious. Greg Vanney obviously went from win 1 that day to win 100 right now, a centurion. You said earlier about coaching, and I think all of us who are around you would never be surprised to see you go there. When you do become a coach, and hopefully it's a number of years away yet, I'm sure you take away everything from coaches that you've worked under. What would you take away the most under Greg Vanney that will help you succeed as a coach?
So much. His ability to engage everybody around him, his ability to, Greg has no ego. Greg is tireless in how he works. The way that he's created an environment where every single person, every player, every one of his assistants, every member of the support staff, everybody feels a part of something. And, when you can create an environment like that, that's when it gets special. That's when it feels different. You can go years and years and years in your career and play on a lot of different teams, but not have that feeling on the inside of a group. And so his ability to create an environment like that every day has been incredible to see. His ability to, watch a game tactically and see different things, and to have a team that is tactically so good. I mean, I think our ability over the years in so many big moments to be able to play in slightly different ways, to switch things on the fly, but to still, make sure that the identity of who we are and the structure ultimately doesn't really change, but I mean, that part is that takes time and that takes work. And so the ability for a coach to bring that out in a team is special as well.
Miles agrees with you, Michael. The stadium with the lights on after a big win is so iconic. KJ, that night against Montreal, was it like 3 a.m. and you were still walking around outside BMO Field? You were too wired to go home?
It's true. Actually, I don't drink alcohol, as you boys know, but I do like to stay out night, and I just couldn't leave. There's a lot of nights when I can't leave, and as somebody who likes to tell a story, I wanted to see everything. So we obviously went to Liberty Village. I think Stevie and Terry were there as well for a little bit. Then I walked back to the stadium and took pictures outside with the stadium lights still glistening in the water. The rain had stopped that night. I went home and I started writing at 4 a.m. and then I was on Michael Landsberg's show at 6. So yeah, I didn't go to bed that night at all. It was just, and one day maybe I'd love to write a book or maybe collaborate with the great man Michael himself on that, something like that, because I think those stories should forever be told for the future generations, because this club is still so young that those moments, will last for a lifetime for those people who were there that night.
Michael, thanks a lot. We appreciate you taking the time today, and for all the TFC fans who are with us on Footy Talks, it's great to see you. Great to hear that you're back healthy. We look forward to seeing you all back on the pitch in Orlando. Every game of the tournament is going to be live on TSN, so looking forward to it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
TFC captain Michael Bradley on Footy Talks in association with Benjamin Moore. I really appreciate everyone being with us for Footy Talks today, and thanks again to Michael Bradley.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.